All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys are having a great Friday or Saturday or Tuesday, whatever day it is for you. It is October 11th, and I do have to apologize before we get into this. I got a little bit of a cold from my daughter. She was so kind to pass that on to me, and so I might have a few sniffles, but we'll get through it. It's a good day for a second reason because we got Blaine McLaughlin with us on the podcast. Blaine is a dentist turned investor, and he invests in value add multifamily. So it should be a good show. Blaine, thanks for hopping on the show.
Hey, awesome. Thank you for having me, Gabe. Hope you're feeling okay. Hope you get over
Yeah,
this fast.
it's October. We always get sick at the beginning of the year, and then we get through it.
Well,
Um,
sharing is caring. Sharing is caring. So.
there you go. My 1.5-year-old daughter, I'm sure she agrees with that. All right, I told you before we got on here, we always like starting with stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are today. Sounds like you got a good one. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story and tell us how'd you get into real estate?
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, I'm a dentist by day, and I've been doing that full time for 29 years now. And so a few years ago, I my kids they're not 1.5, they're in college now. And so a few years ago, I started thinking, hey, my kids are going to be out of school. What am I going to do? Am I, since I don't have to run them around everywhere, I got a little more free time, and I'm thinking, what about retirement, man? It might be time to start figuring that out. So I'm 54 now. So, I was around 50 then when I started looking into this, and I looked at my 401k, and I'm like, okay, what do I got in here? How much do I need to retire? How am I, what do I want to do? And I looked at all that stuff, and I'm like, gosh, this retirement plan just doesn't have a lot of money in it. What the heck? It should, this isn't going to cut it. I mean, I'm thinking, my wife and I want to travel and stuff like that. And it's like that isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. So I started doing some figuring, and I'm like, I've been doing what they told me, the people when you get out of school, and especially, high earner, dentist, doctor, hey, make sure you put your money in your 401k and do it every month. And then you'll grow this real nice nest egg, right? And it'll be great. And then when you come to retire, you'll be set. And so I'm adding the numbers up, going, I put this much in for 25 years in this thing. And
Wow.
I come up with
20.
the return of a 3% return. So
Oh,
I've been getting a 3% return over the
Jesus.
last 25 years of my 401k. That was a turning point, man. Friggin'
That's
punch me in
less
the
than all,
gut.
that's like inflation essentially.
It is. I'm like, I'm freaking done. No way I'm not putting any more money in here. I got to do something else. And so uh, back in when I first got out of dental school, I real estate always kind of intrigued me a little bit, and so I read some books by Kiyosaki, which
Of
most
course.
people know about. Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of the best, and so I was like, oh, this might be kind of good, and so I kind of dabbled in the real estate and had a friend of mine who did some stuff, and he helped me out and taught me a lot. Got in some deals, and just kind of decided, yeah, I'm a dentist, right? I really need to work on my practice. And so I kind of let him run some things, and nothing really, and I really didn't know much about it, and nothing really grew very well. And so I just kind of focused on my dental office, and then this retirement thing came up, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna need some sort of passive income or whatever. I'm done trying to trade my time for money, which is what I've been doing. If I'm not in the office, man, that things don't I don't produce, right? And so I wanted some way I could to make some money when I'm not present, physically present. And then, that retirement thing just, floored me. So I went full bore into multifamily real estate, and yeah, that's where I am now.
Nice. No, I like your story because I feel like a lot of people, they get into their midlife towards the end where they're ready to retire, and they think that it's too late. Like whatever actions, whatever decisions they've made up to this point, they can't change course, and they're kind of stuck where they're going. But that's 100% not true. It doesn't matter how old you are, you can get into real estate.
Mhm.
And 50 is not old, by the way. I'm not saying you're old. So
It's just a
um,
number.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, somebody put it out there.
So you decided to focus on multifamily. Why did you choose multifamily? What was when you just got into real estate, when you chose, you decided that was the path you're going to take? Why did you choose multifamily as the asset?
Well, there are two main reasons for that. One was as I was dabbling in real estate with my friend over the years, and we got into a commercial deal. And there were probably seven or eight of us, kind of like a joint venture that bought a commercial building, and it was some of it was warehouse, and it had some retail in it, and I think there were five tenants total, and one of them had most of the space, and they had over half the space, and they after about 2 3 years being in this, they decided they were leaving. Their lease was up, and they weren't going to renew, and so all of a sudden, this thing that was cash flowing fairly well was not, right? I mean, that's half the rent. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're putting we're doing little mini capital calls every month to cover the mortgage. And at that time it was coming up for renewal. The loan was up and it had to be refinanced. Of course, the bank looked at it and said, "You're not covering the debt now. Why would we refinance this?" And we're like, "Because we'll get a tenant in here. Give us some time." And they wouldn't work with us.
Ah,
And so they foreclosed on it. And so I'm like, geez, I got a little pretty skeptical on commercial. Like I said, that's part of my fault. I
so
didn't understand. I didn't learn.
this
Go
was
ahead.
this was retail.
It was more commercial. There was I think two retail stores, and then the rest. One of them was a big warehouse,
Okay,
and then like an electric company or something that
so it was
ran
like
had a
flex
whole bunch of
space.
stuff, and
Yeah.
they moved out. So
Okay. Yeah, and
yeah,
that's
so I got a little nervous about that, going, wow, if you're going to do something like that, maybe you should have a bigger pool, right? Like, 15 or 20, where nobody has like most of the space. So if you lose somebody, you're not, all of a sudden underwater big time. And so that was one reason where I kind of was like, well, we'll see about this. And then right about the same time, I was doing my figures, my 3% return figures. My buddy who I went to dental school with was kind of doing the same thing on his own. And our kids are about the same age, so he had the kind of same thought process. And and he's like, "Hey," and I told him about my thing. He goes, "I'm in the same boat, bro. I have a friend who is doing a real estate conference in Dallas here in about a month. You want to come?" I said, "Yep, I'm in." And it was a multifamily real estate conference. And so we went down to this conference and learned the ins and outs about deals and larger deals in multifamily, 80, 50, 80, 100 units and up, and how to make that work and how to value add those properties and you know make some money. So
nice.
those were the
Uh,
reasons I got into it.
I always like to give shout outs if there's a good conference, a good mastermind or anything like that. It sounds like this was a good one. What was the name of it?
The gentleman who teaches is Brad Sumrock,
Okay.
and he's very well known in the Dallas DFW area. We invest a lot in Texas, Florida, stuff like that. But he's pretty well known around there.
Nice.
Great conference.
Yeah. Yeah, and going into industrial or retail, having fewer tenants, it's definitely a risk. There are upsides to that, but when you have a tenant that leaves and you don't have a bunch of capital reserves, that can definitely put you in a bind.
Yeah.
So you guys you chose multifamily from that conference. Fast forwarding a little bit, take us from the moment you decided to focus on multifamily, you and your partner, and then to the time when you actually closed the first deal. What was the take us through the process you guys went through, and how you found that first deal?
Well, I'm an LP in about six deals, and it's being a full-time dentist is very hard to get out there and find the deal and do all the work that's needed to be done. So there's two main ways of doing these deals, these big syndications. One is an LP, limited partner, where you invest your money, and then somebody else runs the asset. They manage it and run it and do the capex on it, and then you get your returns. The other is a GP, and if you're a GP or general partner, and you're the one managing the asset, you're making sure everything's being done, all the value adds being put in there. And so I'm an LP in five or six deals, and then I'm also a part part a part of a GP team, like a co-GP in a build to rent. And
Okay.
so that's again, I found some people who have been doing this, and we're building 118 units in north suburb of Dallas,
Oh, is this we're
from
actually
ground
just
up.
marketing to that Frisco is what you're talking about?
It's north of Frisco. It's in
Okay.
Melissa.
Interesting. Yeah, that this is completely off topic, but not really off topic, but that area is the numbers for migration and
Yeah,
appreciation are just off the charts. And so that's a
yeah,
really good place to invest.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
actually we just did a mailer this week to
Oh,
find properties out there. So
oh man, it's
incidental.
fantastic. It's grown like crazy,
Yeah.
population and job growth.
Mm-hmm. Why?
So
And again, we're going off topic, but we're on the topic, so let's
okay,
keep
we're just
going.
talking.
uh, why did you guys choose to focus on that area?
Like I said, job growth is huge in Dallas and all of Texas.
Mm,
So Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Austin. Austin's had some big peaks, and they got some issues here the next year or two with a lot of stuff coming online,
mm-hmm.
oversupply. They'll bounce back though, I'm sure. But job growth around all of Texas is great. There's a lot of people migrating there. You need a lot of places to live, and so most of our properties that we deal with are workers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The blue collar workers that need to, are trying to raise a family, and they need a nice place to live. And so we like to buy these older units and build them up, make them nice, give them a homey feel
Yeah.
for the tenants. So
So, what is your guys' buying criteria when you look for on the multifamily side? Not talking about build to rent.
yeah.
What is your criteria when you're buying?
Well, we like to do 80 units and up. And the reason for
80.
that
Okay.
is, is because when you do that, then you can have a person, one
On
like a
site.
managing company, be there full time.
Yep.
You can have a maintenance guy full time. If you're doubling in 30, 20, 30 units, you can't hire somebody full time. It's too expensive. So then you got to bring in somebody part-time. Well, then it's not a priority to them, right? If
Yeah.
they're working elsewhere and you're like, hey, can I give you a call? They'll sure. But I mean, you're probably gonna be put on the back burner if that happens. If they have multiple jobs they have to get done. And so that doesn't that leads to some maybe deferred maintenance, or you don't provide the quality of customer care to your tenants that you'd like to do. So we like to go 80 and above. Um, the 70s are okay. I don't know much before the 70s. If you go into properties before then, you get into some plumbing issues,
Mm.
some electrical issues and things like that that can be pretty expensive if they're worn out and haven't been replaced. So again, that you got to know what you're dealing with, right? And so you get into 70s, 80s, 90s, things are pretty as far as that goes. They're a little more. I know more about them, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing that. We want to find some place again there's a lot of growth. We want to find a property that's, of course, you're looking for something that's where the rents are too low. Maybe it's not managed well, and so you can go through it and you go through the numbers. You're like, hey, I noticed this and this and this, and as you dive into those, you can go, I would bet if we do something like this, we could probably bump the rents up a little bit, or
Hmm.
maybe the vacancy would drop, and we can get more people in here just by doing this,
Yeah.
and so those are
On
those.
that note, I
Yeah.
I want to call it out before we move on. I always encourage if you guys are out there and you're thinking about getting into commercial real estate and you look on market, everything is like a six cap. It's ridiculous. Even those ones, I would encourage you to ask for the due diligence docs and the P&L because sometimes you can find that their expenses are way out of whack. In fact, I
Mm,
just looked at we buy mobile home and RV parks, and I looked at a mobile home park,
nice.
and they had almost $30,000 in advertising, and I was like, why are you spending that much on advertising? It's there's diminishing returns after a certain
Yeah.
point. There's no point in adding additional spending once you hit a certain threshold. And so if you can look at the P&L, that sometimes you can find gems in the expense sheet
Mhm.
that will show you where you can increase the NOI. So even if it does have a low cap rate, it's in a six or five or something like that, and you look at the P&L, you might be able to find something that can push that NOI up, which makes it a deal.
On that note, there's a deal that I'm looking at now, and it's they put their CapEx. They redid some flooring and stuff in some units, and they put those expenses in the just general expense and repair and maintenance. And so that's going to increase the expense amount, right?
Yep.
Which is going to lower the NOI. And so you look at that and you're like, why are they doing that? And like, if we take this out of there, the NOI goes from here to up here. Oh, well, maybe that's that could be a really good deal.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So you guys look, it sounds like 80 units and above, and then 1970s or newer. You
yeah.
don't go smaller and you don't go older than those. And are you only focused in Texas, or are you looking in other states as well?
No, te I mean, there's multiple states. Again, you got they have to be landlord friendly.
Hmm.
So Texas is great. One of my deals is in south suburb of Atlanta, south suburb of Atlanta. Florida, when it's not being run over by hurricanes. Oh my God, feel for those people.
Yeah.
Uh, Florida's a great state for a lot of people moving there, and
Hmm.
it's very friendly. Arizona's pretty good too, and and of course Iowa, where I am is a very friendly state. It's just a little different style up here.
Yeah, for sure. So before we move on, I do want to touch on the build to rent. That is a concept that a lot of people are gravitating towards. I haven't
Mhm.
looked into it myself, but it does sound unique. Why did you choose to go that route?
There's well a couple of reasons. As we know, over the last few years, with interest rates going up, housing market increasing in values, it's a ton more expensive. I mean, it's way more expensive to try and buy a house than it is to rent a nice place. And so you got a lot of millennials coming out of school and they work from home, right? So a lot of them are don't go into an office or maybe they go in the office 1 or 2 days, but they do a lot of home work from home. They're very transient. They like to move around. They don't like to be tied down. And so if you buy a house, you got a mortgage, right? And you're like, oh, and then 3, 4 years go by, you want to move. Well, then you got to get rid of the house, right? And so you got the huge down payment to get the house. You got the mortgage that ties you down some. And so people are like, hey, if I can have the same feel of a home, not have the down payment and just, rent year to year or whatever, I mean, then I can move if I want and find a new place. It's much more convenient for them. So that's kind of a trend. And again, you see the last few years, it's been up and coming. I read more and more articles about it. And so we have ours are a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. They all have garages. They all have yards, backyards. They still come with amenities like some of the very nice places where you get a pool, clubhouse. I'm putting in a couple pickleball courts. You're putting electric chargers in all the garages and stuff like that to make it nice. So people can go there, they can live there. It's big enough that it feels like a home. They got a yard for the dog or whatever, and they have their own garage and that kind of stuff. And so I think again, that's a kind of a trend where a lot of young people are headed in that direction, and I think it'll work out very well.
Yeah. I do not know why pickleball is all of a sudden popular. It's the weirdest sport to just all of a sudden become like the thing to do. So
Hey, on it, just a fun story about that. I started playing pickleball in 1973.
there you go.
I
You're
was I
OG.
was 3 years old. We had the first pickleball court in Iowa. I've
Nice.
known about it for years, but
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Pickleball is fun, but it's an odd sport to all of a sudden become popular.
yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
all
Um,
right, so that wraps up the first section. It's time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
okay.
All right. It starts with education. Could be any form. Could be movies, books, whatever. Podcasts. Just give me two specific recommendations. One for general life wisdom, and then one for real estate.
One of my favorite books on just living your best life is a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And
Yeah, that's
it,
a good
it
one.
talks about doing little things over and over and over again can turn into huge results. And so one of the examples he gets is if you go out to dinner and you have a cheeseburger, you think about that and you're like, oh, this is going to taste good. Is it going to kill you today? No, I'm going to enjoy this and have a good time. But say you do that every day for 10 years. Well, I think it's probably going to lead to some health problems, right? So little things over and over. How about if you do read 10 pages of a good book every day? You know, if you read 10 pages, are you going to become a genius in one day? No. But man, you do that for a couple years over and over and over again, you're going to gain a lot of knowledge, ton
Yep.
of knowledge. And so that's the premise of the slight edge. Um, if you're just getting into investing in real estate, another great book that I read is called The Hands-Off Investor by Brian Burke.
Hmm.
And it's great for passive investors. It goes through all the multifamily, how to get a deal and what to look for and all your due diligence that you need to look at and stuff like that. And it's a great educational book for people who want to get involved, but maybe they don't have time to be, a full-time investor. And so those are a couple of wonderful books that I love.
Perfect. Yeah, I The Slight Edge is a great book, and I love that concept of small actions taken daily leads to
Mhm.
big improvements in the long run. In fact, that's why my company is called Kaizen Properties. That's why we named it Kaizen, because Kaizen is the Japanese concept of continual improvement over time. And
Nice.
that is 100% true for anything you do. It could be applied to relationships, to skills, to business. If you just do something day in, day out, eventually you'll get good at it.
Yep,
Um,
yep. So true.
so good recommendation. Moves us to the next question. This is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Blaine who was, let's say, just starting out in dental school. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Well, I was pretty focused back then on just doing, once I got into college and dental school, I was really focused on that. And so I would tell myself, my previous self to look at think out of the box a little more. I mean, I was just right there. I had one direction and that was it. And I said I read the Kiyosaki books and those got me kind of intrigued, but I was still just, I was kind of one horse down or whatever. It just going in one direction. And so I would have said, hey, just think out of the box, look at other opportunities, and just be open, be much more open to things that can come your way because you never know what little thing can make a huge impact on you later in your life.
There you go. I've had the opposite issue. I tend to get shiny object syndrome. So I some especially in business, like in real estate, there's so many different assets to do. I always got to remind myself, just Gabe, just focus on what you're doing right now and just
Yeah,
keep going down this road.
that's funny.
All right. Next question is about the US. It is a big place. There is a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro, the single city you're most excited about investing in today.
Dallas Fort Worth.
DFW. It's a good one.
Yeah, DFW.
All right.
Yeah.
Next question is about finding deals. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning that purchase agreement. So, what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
The whole real estate, multifamily real estate business is about relationships, and you got to have great relationships with people. People, your investors, people that are helping you with the deals. And so brokers multifamily brokers are the best way to find leads and get to know them. I mean,
Hmm.
and again, being wanting to do deals in Texas and being in Iowa is a little difficult. But I'm on websites all the time, emailing people. I do a lot of phone calls for people in Dallas, and say, hey, and just asking questions about different properties and stuff like that. And so the more you can get your name out there and again, be nice. Sometimes that's lost in this world. I don't know why, but just talk and be nice to people. And that'll come back to you. So I think finding deals, you got to get to know your brokers.
Yep. I embarrassingly just came upon that that unique strategy of talking to brokers.
Oh,
I guess I was a little bit arrogant and thinking that the only way to find good deals was to get to hit the marketing and get in contact with the seller directly.
oh
But these
yeah.
past couple of years, I've been really focused on brokers, and it's a lot more fun to do it that way, in my opinion, because it's a relationship game. You're having conversations with people, and they're already out there hitting the pavement, and so it's better just to develop those relationships. Follow through with your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it, and then over the long run, those deals will come to you. So.
Yep.
I like the broker strategy. It's not really strategy. Everybody's been doing this for for so long. I just realized how useful it is recently. All right. Next question is about lessons learned. Not every deal that we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, most of the time, something goes wrong and we have to pivot. So, What was the deal that went a little bit sideways for you? And then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Well, I mentioned that earlier. I said that I did that commercial or that the real estate deal where they had the one guy, the one tenant that left. Um, and again, I didn't know a whole lot about it, but man, when I look back, knowing what I know now, if I look back on it, again, I'm looking for being more proactive on finding a new tenant, um, or cash reserves. You mentioned cash reserves. I don't think we had any cash reserves. We were getting distributions every month, and that was great for again a couple of years. And it was like, man, this is awesome. But there was no cash reserves. I would have had, I would have saved up a bunch, and I think that's one of the things that I learned through the Brad Sumrock is make sure you have enough cash to go, and especially the last 2 years when things went a little haywire, expenses went through the roofs and interest rates went up. If you had a variable rate, if you had no cash reserves, you're hurting bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of the deals I'm in had a bunch, right? And they're like, hey, we're going to plan, we're going to make sure this is good. And so we're riding the storm out. Things are heading in the right direction now, and improving in multifamily. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lesson that I also learned the hard way is having cash reserves. And it's something, especially if you guys are doing syndications, it's something you can solve at the beginning, because you can raise
uh
extra money as
yeah,
cash reserves, and it really takes a lot of the stress out of the deal. But it gives you guys kind of a safety net because things always go wrong. They will go wrong, whatever. I can't remember what that rule is.
right.
The Murphy's Law, I think. If
Yeah,
something
yeah,
can go wrong, it will go wrong.
yeah.
I feel like that's doubly true in real estate, and you can't always predict it. And so having those cash reserves to lean back on is so important. It's something that I wish I knew in the beginning, and I learned the hard way. Blaine did as well. And so if
Same
you guys
here.
are starting out or getting into deals, just make sure you have cash reserves. All right, that takes us to the second to last question. This is about capital. It does take money to make money in real estate. So, what is your favorite way to raise capital?
Favorite way to raise capital? Well, again, I'm involved in syndications, which is again, it's a large group of people putting money in to a larger like apartment complex in my area. And so to raise capital, again, you gotta have relationships, right? Because I was taught, man, you don't put your money in with somebody you don't know. You have to know, like, and trust them. Okay. So I'm doing the best I can to go to meet people up. I call people face to face is the best way to get to know people, and they get to know and get a feel for you. Not only what you say, but how you act, how you talk, and just, go have a beer with somebody. And so you go to these conferences and you're meeting all these people and out, and like, hey, is this a good person? Don't bring, as an investor, and I'm trying to get a bunch of investors that I can help. I'm not looking for everybody, right? I'm looking for the people that think like I do, feel like I do, and really care for the property, right? And we're not only fixing this up, we're building this home feel for these tenants. We want to give them a home, not just a place to live. And so that you got to be in contact with people, and you got to build, and it takes time. It takes time. It's not, you're not going to be a couple months down the road. You're not going to build relationships. I've been working on it for years,
Yep.
and so that would be my key there.
Yep. Have a beer. That is a good piece of advice for people out there
Sure.
wanting to develop their capital. All right. Next question is that actually brings us to the last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you, and then what can they expect when they reach out?
Oh, great. Well, you guys heard my story about the retirement, and the 3% that I've gotten. And so I actually created a free calculator, and you can find it at caniretirecalculator.com. So go to caniretirecalculator.com, and you'll get this Excel document, and you can put in your numbers. Everybody's going to retire differently. You can put in your numbers and see where you are. How much do you want? What do you plan on doing when you retire? How many more years do you have left? Do you want, if you go on the consistent 3% route, when will you be ready to retire? And I was at 112. and that wasn't going to cut it for me because I don't know if I'll live to 112. So I wanted to cut that down. So yeah, I think your returns in multifamily real estate can be way bigger, right? And so you can put in these numbers and then there's ways to contact me. And when you contact me, I'll first of all get to know you a little bit. We'll have some phone calls. We'll talk. We'll say, hey, what's going on? What are you looking for? Because again, everybody's looking. Some people are looking for just cash flow. Some people are looking to to build wealth. Some people are looking for buy and hold forever, and some want to flip and turn these things in a couple of years. And so, again, I'll let you know what we're involved in and how we can help you and make sure that's a good fit for you. And if it is a good fit for you, then we'll get you in some investments and help you.
Perfect. So I will put Blaine's link in the show notes. Can I retire calculator.com. That's a good URL, by the way. If
Nice.
you guys want to reach out, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description. In there, you can find his link. All right, Blaine, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Awesome, Gabe. Thank you so much. I hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, so do I. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at the realestateinvestingclub.com. If you guys want to support the show, just leave us a review on Apple or whatever you're listening to this on. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Enjoy, everybody. Thanks.